This video comes with a trigger warning because we're going to be talking about abuse. More specifically, we're going to be talking about financial abuse, a tactic that's often leveraged in domestic violence situations, which I will be abbreviating as DV throughout this video. For that reason, I want to let you know that if you are or suspect that you are in a DV situation or are triggered by any discussions of DV, please make sure that you are in a physically and emotionally safe environment before watching this particular video. Also, if you are the victim of DV and are ready to get out, please contact the U.S. National DV Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or 911 when it's safe to do so. With that, let's get to the intro. Have you ever been the victim of financial abuse? According to a small study by the Centers for Financial Security, financial abuse can be found in up to 99% of DV relationships. It's one of those insidious tactics used by abusers to keep their victim from leaving the relationship, or if they leave, from ever being able to succeed financially in the hopes that their victim will have to come back to the relationship. That being said, financial abuse doesn't always accompany other forms of violence, at least not at first, and it doesn't even have to be from a partner or spouse. I've learned of scenarios where it was committed by narcissistic parents, other family members, or other close relationships that a person perhaps lived with. That's why today I want to clarify what financial abuse is, what are some signs to look for, and some strategies that can hopefully help you or a loved one dealing with this particular form of toxic control. Hey dreamers, and welcome back to my channel where we break down all things money so you can stop being an obstacle and start what it was designed to be, a tool to help you create the life that God has designed just for you. Now, before we start diving into the pieces of the video, I want to take a moment and introduce myself really quickly. I'm Tiana Clewis, author, speaker, executive pastor, and money coach who's made it her mission to help Christian women trapped in the corporate life overcome money worries that are stopping them from stepping full time into what God is calling them to do. If that sounds like something you need in your life, let me know by liking the video and following my channel by clicking the big red button below. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you're notified every time I drop brand new money tips and biblical strategies designed to help you transform money from your biggest stumbling block into your greatest ally. Now that introductions are out of the way, let's start by clearly defining what financial abuse actually is. Financial or economic abuse is defined as controlling a person's ability to acquire, use, and maintain economic resources. In layman's terms, it basically means that either you're unable to earn money, you're unable to access money, or you're unable to keep money that you've earned or been given because it's somehow taken from you. It's designed to keep the victim financially dependent on their abuser, serving as a method of trapping them into the relationship because they can't afford to leave, or they can't afford to survive long term if they do manage to save enough money to get out. Sadly, this tactic is extremely effective because every source I've looked at says most women who are asked why they stayed with their abuser cite financial fears as a key reason for why they stayed so long. Just like physical and psychological abuse, financial abuse can be very in your face or very subtle depending on the style of the abuser. While the in your face style makes it clear that financial abuse is occurring, some are subtle enough to make you believe they're doing it as a favor by taking care of you or that your compliance is simply an act of love. It's with these more subtle tactics in mind that I'm recording this video. So let's talk about the 3 types of financial abuse that we find in the definition so you can identify any red flags in one of your relationships or in the relationship of someone that you love. So the first type that we found in the definition is you're unable to earn money. Now, the most obvious example of this is that you're not allowed to work or you're manipulated into not working for long periods of time. For women, they're often told it's not necessary for them to work because their partner will take care of them or the man is supposed to provide. Or maybe they're told that they need to homeschool the kids, take care of a sick family member, or some other scenario that implies that their place is at home, not in the workforce. But it can be more than that. Maybe you're technically allowed to work, but your spouse does things that makes it difficult for you to stay employed. They might be calling, texting, stopping by unannounced when you're at work. They may make it difficult for you to go to work on time or at all through manipulative tactics. For example, they could be taking your car when you have to go to work without permission, or not showing up to provide agreed upon childcare, hiding things you need for work, or making you do things for them before you can even go to work. I've even heard of men going so far as intentionally keeping their spouse pregnant as often as possible to make sure that she can't actually work or stay employed. Insane, right? But those aren't the only tactics. It can even be things like forcing you to work in a family business without being paid, forbidding you to attend valuable work functions, trips, or trainings, or intentionally subjecting you to physical abuse before important meetings or interviews so that you can't go or that you don't perform well. With any of these scenarios, the victim finds themselves struggling to make enough money to get out, and their resume is so problematic that they worry about being able to find a job that pays a livable wage once they do actually leave. This creates a long term impact that often leads women back to their abuser or potentially even into the arms of another abuser because they need someone to help take care of them and even their children. Now let's move on to the second type of abuse that we saw in the definition. You're unable to access money. This form of financial abuse is all about controlling your ability to access or freely spend the money that you need to survive. They may do things such as confiscate your paycheck or sources of income. They may be providing you with an allowance that's often withheld when you disobey or otherwise anger the abuser. They're not including you in investment or banking decisions for the family. They might make all big purchases in their name only. They might hide money and assets in accounts that you can't access or don't even know exist. They could be forcing you to account for every penny you spend without returning that favor, or they may be demanding access to your financial information and records, again, without returning the favor. With these particular tactics, they accomplish the same thing as the inability to earn money. It reinforces your financial dependency on them by leaving you broke, or it restricts your ability to save what you need to escape by making every unauthorized financial action easy to find and to punish. And since the fear of punishment is there because they can see the financial moves that you're making, it strongly discourages you from even making attempts to try in the first place. After all, if I can just completely break your spirit and discourage you from thinking that you can successfully escape, well, why would you even bother? Okay, so we've covered being unable to earn money. We've covered being able to access money. Now let's talk about the third tactic that we saw in the definition, where it's you're unable to keep money that you've earned or that you've been given because, again, in some way, it's being taken away from you. Essentially, the abuser is going to either manipulate you into giving them your money or they're going to simply take it. It can look like stealing money from your bank accounts, using your debit or credit cards without permission, using your assets like investment accounts for their personal benefit, expecting you to pay for their obligations or bail them out of difficult financial situations that they create, flat out refusing to contribute to the household financially, or forcing you to cash in, sell, or sign over financial assets that you own. Again, at the end of the day, you can't save enough money to get away from them because they use it all, they take it all, they keep it all. But this particular type has a deeper layer to it because the definition of financial abuse technically says economic resources, not just money. Well, your name and credit score are also economic resources, and many financial abusers will take advantage of those as well. For example, they may run up debts in your name without paying them off, requiring you to co-sign for loans or signing your name without permission, encouraging you to pay for things on your credit card with a promise to repay you, only to never actually do it, threatening to lie to officials or law enforcement about you cheating or misusing some form of public assistance, writing bad checks or filing false financial documents in your name or forcing you to do it. They may even force you to agree to a power of attorney that would enable your partner to legally sign documents on your behalf without your knowledge or your consent. With these scenarios, it's all about ruining your name, your good name, your credit history, which can make it difficult to rent an apartment, get much needed credit for key purchases, or even to get a job. The impact of these forms of abuse can easily take years to clean up and can mean the difference between a woman leaving or staying because she doesn't want her and her children living in poverty. Even worse, if you do leave, some abusers continue the abuse by refusing to pay much needed child support or alimony, or they may even draw out the divorce proceedings intentionally to make it too financially taxing for you to continue to fight back. Once again, exerting control over you even when you're no longer under the same roof and making it tough to get on your feet in the aftermath. It's control and, well, it's a sadistic form of punishment. So now that we know some of the things to look for, what are some steps that a person can take to protect themselves and position themselves to eventually break free? Well, I have to be honest, it can be really tricky and you have to be extremely careful, but it's not impossible. I really like the advice that's provided by womenslaw.org, which is part of the National Network to NDV. So I'll give a brief rundown of 6 things they recommend and add a link to their site in the description so you can get more details there. 1, start by getting copies of all the legal documents and financial records that you can possibly get your hands on. That includes things like birth certificates, social security cards, bank accounts, insurance cards, leases, mortgage, car titles. You can even go so far as to getting photos of family valuables because if you're getting divorced or if really your abuser is just a petty vindictive person, they might intentionally go out and start pawning, selling, or hiding these particular assets from you so that you can't get them back later on. But more importantly, you want all of these documents so that you're in a position to where you can do things that you need to do, like be able to get a job, be able to apply for government assistance if you need to, or be able to honestly just do any of the legal things that comes with being an adult in life. The second thing you can do, and it's something that I have to be very clear, it is not a requirement. You can do this without taking this particular step. And honestly, I don't always necessarily recommend this step because it can be extremely dangerous, but it's to open up a secret bank account at another bank that your spouse, your abuser has absolutely no attachment to, so that you can then begin to save and to set aside money for your family. Now, once again, like I said, this is really, really dangerous, really, really risky, because if they're able to find out that you're doing this, some people find themselves experiencing some form of punishment afterwards. So again, it's not something that you absolutely have to do, but if you are capable of it, go ahead and do what you can to open up another secret bank account. The third thing is to find a safe place to go. And that's not always going to be a family member's house, even though if you have family that can and is willing to protect you, they're willing to house you, then you might have to just kind of suck up your ego, be willing to admit what's going on, and go get into that safe space just for the physical, emotional, and financial safety of you and your children. Now, if you don't have family that can help you or that's willing to help you, then the National DV Hotline can certainly help you to find a safe place to go. And their people are trained to help you do that in a discreet manner. So you can give them a call at 1-800-799-7233 or 1-800-799-SAFE. You can also call 911, and their operators are trained to help do the same thing. Now, if your abuser happens to have access to all of your financial or your personal identity information, you can be proactive. Call your bank or your credit card companies to ask that they change your account numbers, your PIN numbers, passwords, and other access codes. You can even call credit bureaus to either set up fraud alerts or to freeze your credit if you need them to, because you're concerned that your abuser is going to go out there and take advantage of your credit. You would also want to be careful about passwords that you have of various financial accounts that you have on your computer. So, if at all possible, find a way in which you can get a computer that your abuser doesn't know about, keep it in a safe, secure location that they're not likely to find it, and you could actually use that to access this information, to have updated passwords, and then you can take that computer with you so that your abuser, again, just can't track what you've been doing or figure that out. Because yes, there are situations where a person's abuser will put tracking software on the computer that the person has that they know about. So you might want to get like a really cheap little laptop or get a used laptop from someone that you trust that doesn't have any monitoring software on, and use that to keep track of all this information that you need as you are planning or in the midst of your escape. Now, for all of my married people, if you can, go find a good lawyer even before you make your escape. Now, I know that lawyers can cost money, they can be expensive, but there are lawyers who are used to working in these type of situations. And yes, the National DV Hotline should have some resources available to help you find lawyers that can help you in these situations. But here's the thing you have to understand. This process is going to get messy trying to get a divorce from a person who's an abuser. Remember that abuse is all about control, and they are going to want to continue to control you as much as they possibly can during this process. But if you have a lawyer who has worked in situations like this, they can help you to protect yourself. In fact, I was surprised to learn that in some states there are specific laws put in place to protect DV survivors in their attempts to put back together that financial situation. Because in some of those states, if it can be proven that your abuser was using your name or was racking up family debts without your permission, without your knowledge, using your name illegally, or really just to their personal benefit, it's actually possible to where instead of the bills and the debts being split 50-50 like they often are when a couple gets divorced, it could potentially be put completely onto your abuser. But that can only really be done if you have a good lawyer to back you up. So while it may be embarrassing and may be a little difficult to find, and it may be a really frustrating process, finding a good lawyer if you have to get a divorce from your abuser is going to be one of the best things that you can do for protecting yourself. And then the final thing on the list is checking out financial education programs that are specifically designed for DV survivors who are rebuilding their finances. Now, while the concept of rebuilding your finances and the principles around it are pretty much the same, there's just something unique about being a DV survivor who's been dealing with financial abuse trying to do this. And so these particular programs are just going to be better able to help you when you're trying to do this in the midst of maybe battling out with an abuser than any typical financial guru such as myself would be able to do. Now, the womenslaw.org site happens to have some resources already listed there, so go ahead, take a moment and check those out. Okay, I know that that was a lot and it was really heavy, but I felt it was necessary to have this conversation, especially since a 2014 survey found that 78% of Americans don't consider financial abuse to be a form of DV. And that's not okay. Financial abuse is just as damaging as all other forms of abuse. It can take people years to recover from all the things that was done to them financially while they were being kept under the thumb of someone who was emotionally, psychologically, or even physically abusing them. So we should take this just as seriously as we do any other form of abuse. And so even though I'm not an expert in the area of financial abuse, I at least wanted to introduce the concept to you guys so that you can keep your eyes open for yourself and for your loved ones. And that way, maybe, just maybe, there will be a tip or two in this video, or that might just set off a light bulb in your mind that helps you to go out and get the help that you need. Now, normally when I do a video, I invite all of you guys to share your comments down below. But what I want you to do is I want you to actually specifically focus on words of encouragement. Drop a comment for someone who is trapped in a DV relationship. You never know how your love, your support may be the very thing that someone needs to finally make the moves that they need to get out and to get to a safe space. So please just flood the comments with as much love, as much encouragement, as much motivation as you possibly can to encourage someone in a positive way to, take a stand for themselves and finally find a way to escape the DV relationship that has been holding them bound. I would love to see all of you set free. And even though I can't personally do something for every single one of you, well, this is what I can do. So I hope it helps. And again, if you are the victim of DV and are ready to get out, please contact the U.S. National DV Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or call 911 when it's finally safe for you to do that. All right, so one more thing before we head out. Do me a favor, let me know that you found this video valuable by hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing to my channel by clicking the big red button below. Don't forget to hit the bell so that you're notified each week when I drop brand new money tips and biblical strategies to help you break through your financial barriers so that you can step boldly into your God-given calling on a full-time basis. So with that, I am going to get back to work. I hope that you're gonna be able to use something from this video or the next video that I have plugged in behind me to help improve your financial situation. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.